minutes of the previous meeting. Do we have any questions or comments on the minutes from 2 weeks ago? Do I have a motion for approval of the minutes?
So moved.
Second. And all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Next up, we have approval of the claims. We have 4 types: invoices, utility bills, wire transfers, and customer refunds. Are there any questions or comments on the standard invoices? I just have a question about the packet in the Dropbox had an item that was, it was the very first one. It said 72-hour. It was for a dump truck, paid by water only. And it's not in this list. So I was just wondering what's the discrepancy between the 2 lists?
It's probably for sludge hauling at Monroe.
Right, but it's not in this packet,
Oh.
and it's in the it was in the Dropbox version. So I was just wondering what the discrepancy was between the 2 lists.
We'll have to look into it and
Okay.
get back to you.
Okay, so moving ahead with the one that's in the packet here, do we have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The next type is our utility bills. And we have, I should have named the amount for the last one. I will do so for this one. And it is for a total of, just a moment, $195,433.06. Any questions or comments about the utility bills? Do I have a motion to forward?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next up, we have wire transfers totaling $485,955.73. Any questions or comments about the wire transfers? Do you have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And then finally, customer refunds, totaling totaling $748.65. Any questions or comments on the customer refunds today? Do you have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. The next order of business is the consent agenda. Vic Kelson.
Good evening, everyone. Vic Kelson, Utilities Director. I'm happy to bring the consent agenda tonight, which totals $6,727. Item A is to Holsapple Communications LLC. This is for $6,000. Those are consulting services for public relations related to the lead service line inventory program. The second item is to Thieneman Construction. This is no change to the cost, but which is not to exceed $499,000, but it extends the expiration date of the contract for the chemical feed system improvements at Blucher Pool. Item C is to Mid-Valley Supply, $4,460 for spill and overflow testing on 3 underground storage tanks at Dillman. And then Mitchell and Stark, item D, this is a credit of $3,733. The new not to exceed is $605,767. This is the first amendment, including a credit for reducing the circuit breaker and wire costs at the chemical feed system at Monroe. And then finally, item E is to Arcadis, no change to the not to exceed of $32,000, and it's the first amendment to extend the expiration date of the agreement for cybersecurity planning. Would any of the board members like to consider any of these items individually? Hearing none, if there's no opposition, the consent agenda will be approved as recommended by staff. Hearing no opposition, the consent agenda is approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Vic. Next up is item 5, request for approval of agreement with Donahue and Associates, professional services for culvert inspection and repair with Jane Fleeg. You're muted. No? Is Jane here in the building?
Oh, she's right, she's on Zoom.
Oh, there we go. We'll give Jane a moment.
James can hear. Is that what he says? It's something with,
James can hear her?
yeah, that's what he says in the chat.
Do we not have the microphone?
Oh,
We couldn't hear him.
Speaker on in here?
do we have our volume turned up in here for the feed?
Can we hear James?
I'm speaking. Jane, you can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear
Yes.
And we can hear James.
Go ahead, Jane.
Oh, you can hear me?
Jane's frozen.
Should I just, in her world, she's still.
Probably should.
Why don't we move on to the next item and come back to this one?
You can present?
Yeah. Should we move on? Let me present it.
It's up to you.
No, I'd like to get it presented, so it's okay.
Okay, please.
We have this back. Hi, Brad Schrader, Assistant Director of Engineering. I'll present this for Jane since we're having technical difficulties. This is a contract with Donahue and Associates to go in and inspect the culvert. This was actually the culvert that was replaced back in the 2003 project, but we're getting failure of the concrete and exposed rebar underneath the culvert. So we need Donahue to go in and do a structural inspection of that and see what kind of repairs are necessary to do. So Donahue is the original designer, and they're able to do the inspection. So that's what this contract's about. I can try to answer any questions if you have any. Not, I can have Jane text me or something, but it's,
Any questions?
yep,
So
go ahead.
just so that I can, you're saying the corner of Kirkwood and Dunn, so that's basically where Greetings and Jimmy John's and the park is? So
Yeah,
that-
right in that main area.
That right?
Yeah.
Okay, so is that going to require any type of shutdown in that area to do this study? Because I know that that's one of the few roads open over there right now.
Yeah, so they'll do this from underneath. They'll go in. and
It's
do it.
underneath,
Yeah,
okay.
they'll approach it from underneath.
And again, what type of issues are we having with the concrete?
We don't know. It's most likely moisture is causing the concrete to fail. You know, you get moisture and you get
Okay.
it breaks down, and then the moisture gets on the rebar, and then that fails. And so really, what we need to do is go in and do a patch of the whole thing, keep the moisture out. But they want to see how far to go before we do that. So there's no indication that it's structurally not safe at this moment. Otherwise, we would
That
be
was
out
going to
there
actually be my
shutting the
next
road down.
question.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I was just wondering, you said it was done back in 2003, so what would have been the expected, how long would, ideally, we shouldn't be doing this right now.
No,
so
we shouldn't be. And
what-
that's hopefully what we'll learn from this also a little bit, and so we can prevent it. Yeah, I mean, the culvert this is just upstream from the large culvert we're replacing now. That was kind of phase one. We're into the next phase. The one we're replacing is 50, 70 years old. I mean, they're expected to last, really a long time. So part of this is we'll try to understand why it's.
I guess, is there any kind of liability on that, or like if it fails within so many years, it goes back on?
Oh, on the
the
contract, not
design
at
or
this
anything like
point.
that?
Yeah,
Okay.
no, we're beyond that.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I'll follow up. So what would be the warranty on our new work that's being done?
That's a good question. I need to come back and look at that later. Normally, we have a year warranty on things like that. I mean, it's generally on most of our projects, but this could be longer. I guess, defer that to Jane.
Okay.
I haven't looked at the contract on this one, so I don't know.
So, maybe I missed this, but this inspection it'll give us some ideas as to why this deterioration is happening. Will it be able to pinpoint, was it a workmanship issue or a materials issue, or because that could inform kind of choices about contractors in the future and such.
Yeah, I can't say that for sure that it'll do that. I mean, so hopefully we get to the root cause so it can be fixed. Jane's probably trying to get on again, so I'm not making everything wrong. Nope. Hopefully, give me a thumbs up, Jane. Okay, yeah, so she's
Okay.
saying it's not a workmanship
Okay.
thing. Yeah, I think it's just moisture getting in there and it's
Okay.
and creating the problem. So and that long ago, it wouldn't inform us on hiring somebody new anyways. It's so long
Oh,
ago that all
true.
the work was done, so.
We believe it has
There
a
we go.
lot to do with salt intrusion.
Oh, there we go. Salt from the road salt.
Mm.
Now that Jane's on, more questions for Jane?
Yeah, any other questions? Do we have a motion for approving the study?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next up, we
Thanks.
have, thank you. Next up, we have a request for approval of agreement with Smith Design Group for engineering services for review and design modifications to the residential storm grant applications. James Hall.
Hi, James Hall, AD Environmental Programs. Does everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes, okay. So this contract is with Smith Design Group. We're taking $30,000 out of the $100,000 that we had set aside for the residential stormwater grants to make sure we fill in other internal staff, reviewed the applications, and they brought out 11 with the help of the external committee to put further review and design to. And so that's what this $30,000 will do. They'll go through each project and see if it's scaled correctly, if maybe the pipe sizing is correct or incorrect, if maybe it's not going to be as beneficial to CBU as it maybe should be. And so what we were hoping to do with this contract is kind of some of the applications that had less means was able to kind of bring their application up better. And that may entice the external committee to give them money as well, fund those projects. Take any questions.
Questions for James? Amanda?
So James, if I'm understanding this correctly, this is to review the applications that have come in for the grant process, correct?
Correct. Do an additional review of the project, a subset of them.
And how much grant money are we giving out?
Well, we
Or
had
that we
set aside
proposed.
100,000. Yeah, we had set aside 100,000, and so we were going to take this 30,000 and use it for this. So of 70,000 going out to residents.
My comment on this is just that I think that's a lot of money for considering for the grant program. You know, that's just quite a bit of money, I think, to hire a consultant to look this over. That's my thought.
Other, yes, Jean?
So, if this amount of money is gonna go towards reviewing the grant proposals that have already come in, and maybe making suggestions for improving the projects, or the design for these projects, is it, I guess I'm wondering, the benefit overall is that, are we expecting that these projects are still going forward, it's just they're gonna be better designed? Is that what we're talking about?
Correct. So some projects that we get, the internal committee looked at, and they thought, well, we think this would be a really beneficial project to the MS4 and to the city of Bloomington. but maybe the application wasn't great for whatever reason. And we, the landscape company that they had come out and do the design of it, which is typically what homeowners are able to get, is just landscape company. Maybe they are undersizing the pipe that they need, or the amount of reinforcement on the side of the swell that they're going to do. And so to get a better benefit for the city MS4, we want to make sure that they're designed correctly and are going to last a long period of time, and not undersized or whatever it may be with each project. And so that's what we're trying to get at. We're trying to create a little equality in neighborhoods and applications that may not have the resources to do that.
This was something we budgeted for last year specifically in this program. When we increased the budget line for the residential grant program, we were specifically trying to improve the quality of the projects in areas and actually the ability of projects in areas where people who might have fewer resources to level the playing field and give them a better opportunity to get it. Because historically, if you have a stormwater problem and you can afford to hire an engineer, you're going to have a really good, really competitive bid. But if you've got a stormwater problem that's affecting your neighborhood and the MS4 system, but you don't have those kinds of resources, you might intuitively know there's a problem, but you're not in any position to design the fix. So we're trying to level the playing field across all the neighborhoods in town.
Thank you.
Jim? Okay. So how many total applications do we have this year? Ballpark.
I believe we had 19 or 20, so half of them.
We down
yeah.
selected 11. So the consultant will look in detail, and it said revise the plan, analyze the plan, revise the plan if necessary, do all that work for those 11, or for
Correct.
all of them? For the 11.
For those 11, correct.
Okay. People that have the better plans, are they actually paying for those plans, or are the companies that are developing them doing so speculatively and expecting to get the work? Like if it's a landscaper, how many have actually hired? Let me rephrase the question. How many have actually hired a engineer to do their planning?
I don't know that number off the top of my head.
But you think some might have, given the plans that you saw?
I think some have. Yeah, I wouldn't say the number's very high, but some of the ones have hired or asked multiple contractors to come out and look at their property.
Okay. But this consultant would treat all of the proposals fairly, even if they had an engineering, if something needed to be tweaked or changed, that they'd do that for those people as well?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'm glad to hear it was budgeted for, not a surprise thing that we're doing in reaction to something going on with the process. So that's good.
No, yeah, we had always planned to do that.
Good. Thanks for mentioning that.
Our goal is to do two things. One is to make sure that this program is administered fairly and equally across the community, and also to maximize the benefit to the MS4, which is really what the whole program was about in the first place.
Thank you. Megan.
Thank you. I feel like I should add to this as well as the representative on the committee from the board. The committee, prior to me stepping on again this year, continued working throughout the fall and redefining how they wanted to do things, and like having the internal committee review these applications first made a huge difference, because you all here that work here every day are the experts. And so being able to see their opinions and know the projects that are going to make the biggest difference on the MS4, and planning this additional $30,000 for that last year, I see it as a benefit. So I look forward to completing the review of the applications and being here when they get presented for their grants later. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Any other questions or comments? Do we have a motion to approve the proposal?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next up, we have Thank you, James. And you're up
Thank you.
next. Request for approval of agreement with Wood Environment and Infrastructure Solutions, street sweeping analysis for compliance with MS4. James Hall.
Can I jump in?
Yes, thank you. Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, let me introduce this because I think that's what we failed to do the last time. This is a conversation that we've been having with an initiative that's been coming up from conversations related to the organizational assessment we did several years ago, where it was identified that our MS4 program was very small, and also that street sweeping is one thing that a lot of MS4 programs have in their bailiwick. I've got a letter here from Adam Wason. Public Works Department is supportive of us investigating this and seeing how it would affect both the budgeting and the performance of the MS4. Street sweeping has been part of the street division at Public Works for a long time, but they have not been able to focus enough resources on it to do the job at the level that they would like to. In the early 2000s, there were 6 street sweeper vehicles in the street department. Now there are only 2. They try to do all the streets once a year. We'd like to make sure that we're doing them at a level that's consistent with a well-performing MS4 system. So the main benefit we get from street sweeping is that when you sweep the streets, you remove debris that would have otherwise ended up in the storm sewer, which we will eventually have to vacuum out or dig out. You also reduce the amount of plugging of inlets and those kinds of things. So we're looking at this as obviously we don't always want to be taking over things that other departments have in their purview, but this is a case where we at least want to know what the costs and benefits would be if we were to take over this function, and whether and how much it would improve our MS4. So I'll let James take the technical part, but I just wanted to set the context of this discussion. So it really is a citywide type of discussion about whether CBU should take this function on.
Yeah, so, and on top of that, we wanted to make sure we understood the cost and what it was going to take for us to do that at the level that we thought was necessary, especially with the rate case coming up. And so that was one of the reasons we thought we should do a study. One of the other things that we do as a group, not only my group, but the T&D, is we go around and we manually clean storm inlets. And so in the past, since November of last year, my group alone has cleaned 600 inlets and removed 830 gallons of debris off the top of a storm inlet. And that's not a one-person job. Every time my group goes out to do that, one person is scooping and one person is a safety watcher for traffic. And so, we use a lot of personnel hours, man hours, to kind of do these things that we think a street sweeper would really cut down on and help us minimize, at least one person there. And then we've seen a lot of studies. There's studies out there from the USGS in Wisconsin that shows about the water quality benefits that we get from street sweeping, and from Stanford about removing phosphorus and ammonium. So that's some of the technical things that we're looking at, but we wanted to make sure that we understood the costs associated with street sweeping. And I did reach out to DPW about helping us fund this, and Mr. Wason agreed to $10,000 towards the cost of this. So I think the overall cost is $38,960. But DPW is going to chip in $10,000. Any questions? I don't know if that was me or you guys.
Hope it's not a tornado.
Yeah, we do have questions. First, Jim.
Yeah, thank you, James. So this is probably down the road some, but I assume that if we did take it over, that we would inherit the 2 street sweepers, and then we would need to purchase others.
Correct. Well, I don't know about inheriting. That's a big question. But part of the analysis. I don't know if you've read the whole scope, but it will look at those street sweepers that we have. I know from discussions, those aren't the type that typically work best and do the best job in the ones that we have. So, but yes, probably in the future, we would purchase one if we took the program over, because the type that work best aren't the ones that the city of Bloomington currently owns.
I'm pretty certain we'd take them over.
Other questions?
Quick question. So is the idea to increase the amount of times that we clean the streets, or, okay, per year?
Correct.
Do we
Correct.
have a
Yeah.
estimated time, amount?
No, I don't know that the answer to that. That would be part of the discussion with Wood. We would talk about how much cost benefit we would have from doing it multiple times, or maybe some streets get once a year, maybe some get 2 or 3 times a year. That would be part of the discussion and of the study.
Okay, thank you.
This frequently does come up when we're before council. It even came up during the water rate case last year. Clogged storm inlets and poor storm drainage and unclean streets is a topic that frequently does come up in questions from the public. It's probably one of our largest sources of complaints.
Other questions? So when I looked at this a little bit today, just did some quick research, and because I wanted to understand what the city's interest is and what our interest is. And the city had the street cleaners for many, many years, and other communities have had those for a long time before there was ever an MS4 program. So there was some benefit that the city saw in cleaning streets. And these, if you go and look in the literature, you see that it's aesthetics, health, air quality and water quality, safety, sand on the streets, and then preservation of the pavement materials and other infrastructure. So, to me, I'm absolutely 100% behind, making sure that our stormwater is as clean as we can make it within reason and with the resources that we have. And at the same time, I believe the city should still have an interest in their part in taking care of the sanitation of our streets, the cleanliness of what's on the surface of the streets, particularly because they put things on the surface of the streets. And they have a bigger interest in some of those characteristics, those measures that we try to meet in terms of aesthetics, health, and safety. So I recognize that this study does not at all look, or at least what was in the scope, look at what should be the responsibility of the city and what should be the responsibility of the utility. But I certainly will be looking at that before we make any decision to take over anything in terms of street sweeping. Acknowledging that we need to do better for MS4, but the city still has an interest and should pay their part of whatever activity takes place in the future. So more of a comment, but we'll be interested in that information when the study's done. Jim.
Yeah. I just want to second what Jeff just said, that the city ought to have an interest and maintain an interest. And in the financial end, right now the city has some dollars budgeted towards street cleaning. If that then all got transferred plus whatever else we had to us, it would be going from the city budget to the ratepayers. And I agree that it ought to be a shared cost between the city and CBU.
I just want to respond to that. These are not ratepayers. This is the stormwater fee, which is a flat fee for all residential customers and a fee that's based on acres of impervious surface for commercial customers. So this, there's actually, I don't know if you remember this, there was an issue at one point where there was a legal question over whether a stormwater fee was a tax or whether it was a fee. And it was ultimately decided because the legislature said, defined it to be a fee. So it really is structured more like a property tax in a lot of ways than it is. It just happens to be on your water bill. If you lived in Monroe County, unincorporated Monroe County, it would appear on your property tax bill. It's that the utility bills are a convenient place to put the fee, but everybody pays the fee, not just water or sewer ratepayers.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions about this item? Okay. Do we have a motion for the proposal to begin the study with assistance from the city?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, next up, item 8 is a request for approval of resolution 2022-03, bid acceptance and contract award for Monroe Water Treatment Plant residuals dewatering improvements with Dan Hudson.
Hello, Brad Schrader again, Engineering Division. Dan's off today, so I'll be presenting this for him. Last week, we opened bids for the new belt press and residual management system at Monroe. We had 2 bidders. Our consultant looked over the 2 bids, found them both complete, and so we'd like to award to the lowest bidder, which is Mitchell and Stark. And so we're looking for your approval to award to them and come back in 2 weeks with a contract. Is there any questions about this, or?
Do you need approval of this? You need the board to vote on?
Yeah, we just need you to say you approve us
And then
going
you'll
ahead.
bring the contract
And we bring the
back.
contract in 2 weeks, yeah.
And any questions for Brad? Comments? Okay, do we have a motion to move ahead with this proposal?
So moved.
Second.
Moving to approve resolution 2022-03. Is that correct?
Yes, that's what's on the, yes.
So that should be your motion.
So the motion that was just forwarded and seconded was to approve resolution 2022-03. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. And Brad, again, item 9, request for approval of agreement with Wessler Engineering, SCADA Asset Management Phase 2 at Monroe Water Treatment Plant.
Yes, again, Brad Schrader. Jill Miner has been really working on this a lot with the engineering division. And this is work, we went into contract with Wessler. This is phase 2. The first phase we did at Blucher Pool, where they're going through and doing a complete asset assessment of all the SCADA systems. So they're looking through all the physical hardware, they're doing network diagrams, and they're capturing and baselining the software and then allows it to be stored. So it really has 2 things. It improves our resiliency because we can manage it better. In the case of a failure, we can bring systems back online faster. And then also it feeds into our asset management plan, which we're working on as far as, a requirement going ahead with everything. And really the third thing now we've come to find also as a side benefit is we're working on a cybersecurity plan, and this is helping that because it's a requirement of a cybersecurity plan to identify all of our assets like this. So this is now to move on to the Monroe plant and have Wessler do the same work they did for us at Blucher Pool, and we were really happy with the work they did at Blucher Pool. So happy to answer any questions on that.
Questions? Comments? Do we have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, voting on the motion to approve the agreement with Wessler. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Brad.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Phil Peden with a request for approval of agreement with GRIP for a purchase of 20 smart cover sewer flow meters.
Thank you. Phil Peden with the engineering department, for the record. Yeah, I really thought I was cooler than this, but the nerd side of me really geeked out over this innovative new product here. So I hope I can explain it to you all so you can understand it as well. But it is, smart covers are a product that they can place on top of the inside of a manhole cover. And it has a sensor in there that provides data on the flow of the sewer so we can get real-time depths of the sewer. So our goal, one of the goals from the wastewater side is to eliminate sewer overflows. And so as you try to monitor that, a lot of times we can't tell what's going on real time until you see the overflow. What this tells us ahead of time is when that flow starts to rise in that manhole. And so another component of that is, you know, the water is flowing in the larger trunk lines, but you have these what I'll call tributary lines that come in. And so we can't tell which line is feeding to the problem where it's starting to come up. So now with this new Smart Cover innovation product, we can place this in the system and figure out which line is bringing in the flow the quickest and the highest that's leading to the overflow. We can also tell if there's a blockage or something in the line that's causing it to back up. And so we can perform maintenance on a regular basis in areas that we recognize are coming up and getting closer to overflow. So we see it as a great product. I mean, if it weren't for this, I think there's going to be a group of us from engineering out there during a rain event with all these manhole lids talking on our cell phones. Yeah, it's starting to rise over here. So it's going to be great. We're excited to have it as part of the system if you'll approve this. The contract is with GRIP, who also does our flow meters. So we get to use the same general website that we're used to. It's for $127,885, and that a large portion of that is for the purchase of those, and then the reoccurring fee will be less than $20,000 per year to have the website and the maintenance. Is there any questions that I can answer?
Can you talk about the complementary nature of these and the flow meters we have in place?
Yeah, so the flow meters do provide some real-time data, and we get monthly reports on those. So we see that rise and fall. During a rain event, you can go back and look at the graphs and see that, oh, you know, in this drainage sewer basin that the flows went up 8 times. They peaked over the dry weather flow because of the rainwater, groundwater coming in. What this does is it will broadcast through that system more. We'll have 20 of these versus 1 flow meter. We've only got 11 flow meters, and they're throughout the whole system. And so this lets us concentrate on one area and get more real-time data right during the event.
So,
and I was going to jump in. There's another thing that Phil didn't mention that these do, is that they can tell when the water level gets up to the top of the manhole and actually hits the manhole cover. They will tell you how much the pressure went above the elevation of the manhole cover, which is an important question when you're trying to do corrective action. So if it's, you know, is it 6 inches above the street, or is it 20 inches above the street? And that's important information to know when you're trying to do fixes upstream or downstream. That's how Phil sold me on it.
yeah. And so we can set different thresholds, and we get alerts for different conditions and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Is it an optical system? Is there like a laser pulse coming down to hit the top of the water, or what?
No,
what's
there's
the technology?
there's a subsonic sensor that's lowered from a
Sonic.
cable, and that's different than some of the other brands that were out there. This one can be submerged, and you still get the data, so that when it does fill up all the way to the lid, then you get this additional data that's very helpful.
Now, do our lids come off in high weather events sometimes? Is that a concern for damaging this equipment?
Some do, and yes, it is. So we've got to be strategic about where we place it. So maybe just one manhole upstream of where that's at.
Yeah.
Me? Yeah, okay. So we have the opportunity to purchase 20 of these right now, and I'm assuming that you folks have determined particular areas where we would most get the most benefit from the data that comes from it.
Absolutely, yeah. We've got our areas around town that we're most excited to start in. And of course, the southeast basin along College Mall Road is where we still have a recurring overflow near Covenanter and College Mall Road. So that whole system, we've got several flow meters out there. We're doing our sump pump disconnect program in that sewer basin. So we're excited to use it there. But also the downtown area, as you go upstream from manhole 6, which is the Grimes Motor manhole, where we did the South Central Interceptor project a couple years ago, which was about 11,000 feet of interceptor sewer pipe, and we haven't had an overflow there since that, so that eliminated that one. But as you get in the downtown area, there's so many different pipes coming into the system. That's one I'm really excited to see.
And while I know that manhole covers are very difficult to remove, if, should somebody get into it, or should somebody try to monkey with that system, obviously I don't think we're gonna have any problems with that, but if that were to happen, would we know?
Well, I'm sure the data would present something that
Okay.
occurred if it came all the way off. But yeah, I'm not familiar with anyone attempting to monkey with it, but we do want to let our crews know so that they don't remove that manhole and then, damage some of
Right.
the product, the tool there, so.
And then how are they powered, is my other question.
They're battery packs, so
Okay.
there's a bracket that holds the battery pack and all the hardware.
Awesome, thank you.
I think Amanda asked my questions about the locations, and then, so 2 questions. Number 1, if we recognize a problem and then we're able to address it, are these able to be moved to other covers? Yes?
Yes, so there is a small installation fee to change, but I think, yeah, we're gonna be adjusting these annually to new locations. If we start getting a lot more grease in an area, we can put it upstream of the grease, figure out how frequently we need to clean the line.
Okay, great, thank you. And my other question is, I'll have to remember it later. I should have written it down. You've done a great explanation with all that, and it sounds like it's going to be a great asset to your team, so thank you.
Thanks.
My question is, so, this is for 20 systems. Is there a plan or wish list that, gee, we wish we could work up to 30 total? Or is this, let's use these in targeted places, address the issues that we learn about, and then move them to other places?
Yeah, I really think we need to look at the 20 and see how we can use them and see how many it really truly takes. I think once we start getting that data, we'll recognize whether,
Okay.
but it might be less, and then you could divide 10 over to this sewer basin, 10 to this sewer basin, do your analysis. So I'm comfortable with 20 for the near future.
That was it. Thank you.
I think we're all kind of geeking out over this.
Right there with you.
That's
All
because
right, good.
Phil's done a great job of like being the informative person that he is. I guess you said moving forward $20,000 per year for maintenance and things like that. Life expectancies on these devices. What type of initial maintenance has there been any reviews from other systems that use this?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't have the life expectancy on these. I know the flow meters, we've had in the system the whole time. We've not had to change those out. And these are new, they've not gone to another phase, so it's still
Right.
the first phase of these. So I'm not sure. They're not been implemented a lot in the area around
Right.
here that I'm aware of. So, sorry, I can look into that for you though. So.
I know you will, my man.
You have confidence that these are a trusted technology that's going to be good for us for the coming years?
I've read articles and they've talked about it at the seminars, and it's a thing out there in our industry. Yes, for sure.
Okay.
Yes, there is. I'm not sure if that's listed on the. We pay $399 for the warranty. It's a 1-year extended warranty.
Well, we hope we'll see what happens here. If we approve it, hope they last a lot longer than that. Any other questions, comments? Do we have a motion for approving the purchase of the smart cover sewer flow meters?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you, Phil.
Thanks.
Next up, we have old business. Any old business from the board? Old business from staff? New business from the board? New business from staff? Subcommittee reports.
I have one. We had prior to this meeting, we had a meeting of the Property and Planning Subcommittee where we reviewed 2 different items. One of which is an easement agreement with the residents of Lake Lemon. I'm going to ask Mr. Wheeler to say a few words about this, as well as the second one. But I think we have to approve them separately.
Yeah, that's right. Good evening, Chris Wheeler with City Legal. And which one did you pull up first? I'm sorry.
Sure, the Lake Lemon project.
Yes, yes. So we already have an easement agreement with residents out at Lake Lemon on Tunnel Road, but it only extends to those residents who live down to the tip of what's known as Icebox Bay. And if you have your materials in front of you that show this easement agreement, the original easement that exists, if you go to page 7 under Exhibit B, is a triangular piece of property that we own, which is situated just to the west of where Riddle Point is and where the boat ramp is, if you're familiar with the property at all out there. This little tiny piece of triangular property that the city owns has a gravel driveway that runs across it, and those folks who live along Tunnel Road down around to the end of Icebox Bay at the very tip get to use that triangular space. But since that easement was arranged, additional properties have been developed around the other side of Icebox Bay, and they too like to use that gravel driveway, but they don't have an agreement with the city for easement access and across that triangular space. What's more, if you turn the page, you'll find another piece of property that sits just at the very bottom of Icebox Bay that is also owned by the city and where the gravel road runs underneath Icebox Bay. All of the folks on the west side there of Icebox Bay use that portion of our property as well, so that they can have egress and ingress into their lakefront properties. We, in this new version of the easement, are going to add that piece of property in as another consideration to allow those property owners to get through that parcel of real estate at the bottom of Icebox Bay. So this easement contemplates that all of the original owners continue to enjoy egress and ingress across that triangular space, and then it also allows all the people on the other side of Icebox Bay to enjoy that triangular egress and ingress, but also to enjoy the same benefits across the piece of property at the bottom of Icebox Bay. It also increases the ability to improve the gravel driveway from gravel up to some form of an asphalt, to pave it, which was not part of the original easement. So those are the things that are attempted to be accomplished by this new easement that would be recorded, assuming that the board will approve this easement request. The staff recommends approval. I believe that it is a good idea.
And the subcommittee also approves approved the project, or not project, the easement.
Are there any questions from the board for either the subcommittee chair or counselor? No. Okay, and we take your subcommittee approval as a motion?
Yes, so I'd like to move that the board approve the easement agreement with the residents of Lake Lemon as presented to the board this evening.
And do we have a second? Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Yes, aye. Thank you. And all those opposed? Okay. And the second item?
The second item is the review of the memorandum of understanding with the Parks Department regarding Switchyard Park and the sewer main that is under the berm. Go ahead, Chris.
Thank you, Chris Wheeler, City Legal. This MOU has been a long time in coming. The berm that exists that we're talking about has been there for quite a while now, but we finally reached a point where we're able to move forward with Parks and have this MOU brought to this board for approval. And then on the 26th of April, it will go before Parks Commission for them to review and hopefully approve as well. What this MOU is attempting to accomplish is to delineate the responsibilities between Parks and CBU as it relates to our sewer main. It's a 36-inch sewer main that runs kind of parallel along Walnut Street on the easternmost side of Switchyard Park and down through a very tiny tip of what used to be the Wee Willie's property and then continues south. The Redevelopment Commission now owns the property at Wee Willie's and the property just south of it. And our sewer main runs in an easement that runs down through those two properties and also through Switchyard Park to the north. During the development of Switchyard Park, a great deal of coal ash was discovered that had to be dealt with. Parks had to deal with it, and they had to follow IDEM's permitting requirements on what they could do and not do with that coal ash. The approval by IDEM allowed them to put the coal ash into these giant berms, cover them with clean soil, and then cover that with grass and other vegetations. One of the berms was inadvertently placed right on top of that sewer main that we're talking about, the 36-inch sewer main. That's going to create an additional cost to the city, to utilities, when we want to get in there to do any repairs, maintenance, upgrades, whatever we want to do. It just creates an additional headache for utilities and additional costs. Those additional costs and the headaches, which would be to get IDEM's permitting departments to allow us to go in and disturb that coal ash while we're in working on our infrastructure. Parks will have to help us get those permits. They'll cover the cost of getting permits if there are any. They'll also cover the cost of any additional excavation that's caused by us having to remove some of the coal ash, put it in a proper place, and bring it back later and get it reburied. And I'm happy to try and answer questions that the board might have with regards to this MOU.
Any questions?
None.
For Chris at all?
I think
Okay, and we have
we covered many questions about this in the subcommittee, so, but having heard all of the discussion and concerns, we were all in agreement that it should be approved.
Okay, so we'll accept that as a motion.
Is there a
for-
motion? Yes,
for
so I'll
approval.
put it forward the motion for acceptance of the memorandum of understanding with the Parks Department in regards to Switchyard Park sewer main.
Thank you, Amanda. Do we have a second? Second. All in favor of approving this MOU, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have staff reports.
Good evening. We have a couple of staff announcements to make. Brad, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I just wanted to introduce Brian Blake. He is our property easement person in the engineering division. The place Mike Carter started in December. We're happy to have him on. So.
Welcome. Thank you.
And the other is for those board members who've never met her before, this is Michelle Walden. Missy has been at CBU for maybe 6 or 7 years or something like that, right? 25 or whatever.
We've seen you up here.
Yeah. Missy will be serving as the interim assistant director for finance until we have a permanent candidate hired. The only other thing, I know we've been here a long time tonight, but I do have one other thing, and that is this week is the Indiana section of the Indiana section of the American Water Works Association is actually meeting in person for the first time in 3 years. So a bunch of us are going to be in Indianapolis for a few days this week for training and all the good things that happen at that conference every year. So it's good to be back in that situation. I know a lot of us are looking forward to it. That's all I have to add.
Well, Missy, congratulations. Thanks for stepping up. That's all from staff.
That's it.
Next up, petitions and communications. We're not doing anything live anymore, right? There's no connection. Okay, so anyone from the public? Any other petitions or communications? Do we have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Thank you.